Hey everyone, welcome to the second day of our Non-Human Identity Summit. This is the first one we've held, and likely it will become annual, I'm sure, given all the trouble we're seeing with NHIs. Indeed, you saw on the first day a number of experts from the industry share their views on how agentic AI and AI are impacting non-human identities and their management, as well as how they might be supporting sort of some of the cyber attackers. You also heard from some other experts about different types of solutions and approaches one can take to really address this. And I wanted to kind of get into the basics to kick off day two and introduce today's experts, as well as share some findings that CSA received from some industry research that we released late last year. So obviously, non-human identities refer to those sort of digital identities that allow for that have access credentials, the ability to kind of speak between machines and applications and services and things of that nature. And because of the complexity of our environments, these access credentials, these digital identities, can grow exponentially without even us knowing or understanding how many are out there. And that's because typically in most organizations today, because most organizations are in the early stages of trying to really figure out how to better monitor and secure non-human identities, that typically they are kind of growing. They're not centrally managed. Oftentimes anyone can kind of create them. Sometimes they become a little antiquated. Some might have more privileges than they should. So all of those sort of security risks plague organizations. And often we've seen several breaches occur because of a compromise and a non-human identity that, folks were not necessarily aware of or monitoring as well as they should. So the idea here is to try to understand what we can do to get a handle on these diverse apps and services and that are kind of leading to so much complexity, and of course kind of making our attack surface that much bigger these days. So obviously, a big old blind spot is the fact that most organizations right now don't necessarily have a good handle on how many of these they actually have in their environments. And so they try to do this manually. There are NHI lifecycle management solutions out there that many organizations are looking at, and that's what we found in our survey. So we had more than 800 executive leaders respond to the survey that we did with Asterisk Security, one of our members, corporate members. And we did discover that despite some of the anxiety around NHIs, there is this awareness about the risks they introduce to one's environment. And so they are either currently investing in some automated solutions, other security solutions, or they're planning to do so this year. So that's a good sign. But the problem is, yes, they have this awareness. They are anxious about what they need to do about them. The problem is they're finding some challenges in sort of figuring out how they can better secure them. And so there are those existing problems. And again, we're still in the early stages for many organizations. The areas where they're struggling, I mentioned this idea of really not even understanding how many NHIs are out there. Certainly that's on the list, as well as just, managing these service accounts, monitoring them, auditing them, and then ensuring that their organizations are adhering to the principle of least privilege. There are many NHIs out there that have more privileges than they should, and because there's no periodic automated sort of auditing of these going on, they're just kind of out there, and eventually they could be compromised if they're not secured. So in addition to these challenges we found, and I didn't include this chart here in the slide, we did find that 38% have no or low visibility of third-party vendors. And then only 15% continuously review permissions for service accounts. So that gets into this idea that they're really not keeping a good handle typically on what's out there. And they're not doing it frequently enough. Most of the time, they might review them yearly or quarterly, according to these findings. Only 47% are confident that they have not experienced an NHI security incident, which is telling because there could be something going on, in their environments right now, and they wouldn't even know about it. The causes of some of these incidents is this idea of not rotating your credentials on a regular basis, but also kind of changing it up so it's a sort of a protected process. 37% have inadequate monitoring or logging. 37% are also overprivileged accounts or IDs. And then you can see there are other things, orphaned accounts, which I mentioned earlier. We have poor secrets management, compromised external integrations. And so all of those things kind of, wed together to cause a risk of a breach. Only 20% have a formal process for offboarding or revoking API keys, and even fewer at 16% have a process for rotating or rolling back those APIs. So a lot of organizations still at this point are sort of manually offboarding their API keys, which then leads to these long timelines, and obviously that just stretches out the time that the organization is vulnerable. So only 19% of those who responded have automated processes for offboarding, and 16 for rotating and rolling back their API keys. So you can go to our website and gather all kinds of information. In addition to this research that I mentioned here, we definitely have blogs. We have other research pieces. We have our controls matrices that you can check out. There also are references to the work we're doing with NIST and other partners. So you can really get a wealth of information, all free, from our site to help you kind of get a handle on this problem and the many others that are plaguing organizations today. But this one I thought was quite interesting. It was a blog from Marta Dern from Oasis Security, another of our members. And this blog really provides the step-by-step guide of how you actually, think about the plan for managing your NHIs. Not only this idea of just purchasing, a centralized NHI lifecycle management solution, but also, and then tying that to your traditional IAM, but this idea of also understanding who needs to be involved. So making sure that you're scoping out this project, this initiative to protect your NHIs in a very proactive way that includes all of the critical stakeholders to help you understand the environment, help you understand what success actually looks like, and then also tie your goals to those of the business and the business's initiatives. And then with that, it also suggests finding the right security tools. In this case, this NHI management tool, but certainly, other tools out there. Certainly that centralized management is definitely going to help you get a better view. And you have to think about things like scalability and integration with your environment. Whether you're thinking about integrating it with your cloud services and the IAM solutions that you have in place, or if it's going to be hybrid, on-prem, whatever it may be. But you need to make sure that it has the ability for you to automatically discover the NHIs out there, that you can actually assign an owner to that. There's a remediation process. There's just this ability to really oversee the whole life cycle of beginning to end for these non-human identities. And then just really understanding what your security posture is, taking into account those standard frameworks and standards, stuff like you see from CSA's CCM, but also NIST, and taking into account zero trust principles. and making sure that your policies, instead of starting from scratch, making sure that they really follow these best practices so that you can then make sure you're in compliance with whatever regulatory mandates are affecting your organization. Along with that, you want to make sure that you're reaffirming your posture. So you put some security solutions in place, but now you need to really make sure as you're doing that inventory, you know which NHIs are out of scope. You're prioritizing them for their criticality and making sure that those are the first ones that get addressed. And then you have that continuous monitoring going on so that you can remediate problems in real time. All of this idea that this plan is really about making sure that you are embracing the entire management life cycle, that you're being consistent, that you're developing repeatable processes, and they're being centrally managed, just like we see with human identities. It took a minute for us to get that organized too, but we seem to be there now. So while most organizations want to believe that they're robust, they're strong, their security postures are great, they have a pretty good idea of how many NHIs are out there, the truth of the matter is they don't. I mean, there's some research that says there are maybe 80 NHIs to one human identity. And then on the lower side, it's 20 NHIs to one identity. So organizations, they're still in the throes of trying to get a handle on this situation. They're still struggling to manage these service accounts. They're struggling with auditing and monitoring and access and privilege management, along with just developing policies to enforce. But the awareness is there and the investment is there. There have been breaches, but we all know about them. I think we're going to be talking about one today if we didn't talk about it yesterday. So there have been these breaches. Organizations are investing in them. But it takes more than that investment. It takes making sure that you have all of those stakeholders involved, from top down, to really hash out a plan, stick to it, and take those enabling solutions to help you manage this very insecure area of your business. So you're going to hear more today from other very strong experts in the space who are going to explain some of the things that you can do, practical steps you can take into consideration. We really hope that you enjoy the rest of the day with us. And if you want to learn more about the various resources that CSA offers, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. So enjoy the second day with us, and thank you so much for sitting in with me. Take care.